It is a real honor to be able to have some of your time today. I am with Congressman Chip Roy, Congressional District 21, which is the beautiful heart of Texas, the hill country and all. Oh my gosh, there is so much going on. I just heard you yesterday talking again about the border situation. That's been kind of the topic this evening with the different interviews I've been doing. You come from a different perspective, being up in D.C. Doesn't feel like we're making any headway, of course, with the leadership we've got currently and the stats and the numbers. Anything encouraging to tell us, or maybe more importantly, tell us what really is going on so the people really understand what needs to be done?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I mean, look, I always start with a premise as Christians. We're called to obviously make sure that we're not turning our back on people who need help. And I actually believe that very much. And I believe that this administration's policies is doing just that. When you're encouraging people to flood across our border and putting them in the hands of dangerous cartels, encouraging young women to get put into the sex trade, you're having migrants who are dying by the dozens, hundreds, even now thousands, potentially, certainly around 1,000 in ranches in South Texas, drowning in the Rio Grande. When you have then thousands of Americans dying from fentanyl poisonings as a result of wide open borders that the cartels are exploiting. These are all things that should give us significant pause as Christians about what we're doing as a country, that this sort of false compassion is being sold, and as a result, people are getting hurt. So what do we do about it? You said, well, is there something to be positive about? I would say that the efforts by Governor Abbott to send certain individuals to D.C., to Chicago, to New York, now Governor DeSantis following suit and sort of upping the ante by sending some to Martha's Vineyard. Democrats are saying that these are somehow political games. The political games being played are being played by the Democrats who are allowing these individuals to be used as political pawns or pawns of the cartels to be put into the sex trade. Not governors trying to figure out how to bring attention. And they're doing that. So that's the positive thing.
Finally, it took a while.
Attention is finally being brought and captured some people's attention. On the downside, or at least there's an opportunity here, Republicans have got to find a spine and a willingness to fight. We've got to stop funding the very government bureaucracy in Washington that is undermining our freedom and causing harm to Texans. So my message to Republicans is it is time to stop acquiescing and just simply giving a blank check to what these bureaucrats are doing. We should withhold funding until we get the changes that we deserve, period.
Is there a particular project or anything that you're focused on up in D.C. at this time?
Well, I mean, quite a few. In this area in particular, we're having a kind of live fight at the moment because government funding will expire at the end of September.
True.
It's the end of the fiscal year, and we're sitting here now on September, whatever today, 16th or 17th.
17, I think.
And so we're about a couple weeks out. And my position, and the position I'm encouraging Republicans to join me in, I've signed a letter we're going to be releasing on Monday. About 10 senators have signed a letter, about 30 of us in the House. We're trying to grow the numbers to say that we will not accept a continuing resolution to keep government funding into the lame duck to give Democrats the power in December under this current regime to then advance their priorities with government tax dollars, borrowed money, and printed money. We should not do that. We should be right now demanding that we fix the things that ought to be fixed, or at a bare minimum, if you're going to do a continuing resolution, do it into the next year so that a new Congress can advance the priorities of the people. That's something we're working on right now. There's a host of other issues, obviously, that we're working on a regular basis. I'm trying to fight the vaccine mandates, which are obscene and harming our men and women in uniform, and Border Patrol, and people are losing their jobs. We're trying to fight the energy policies that are destroying our ability to have independent energy and strong national security and lower gas prices and a strong grid, and instead the opposite. And we're trying to fight, the absurdity of the kind of woke policies that are going on in D.C. and fight things like 85,000 new IRS agents. So there's a lot of things that we're trying to work on. Look, let's face it, this administration is acting in direct conflict with the well-being of the American people right now.
There's no question about that. With some of the policies that have been signed in that of their agenda, if we do end up with a Republican dominant House and hopefully gain even in the Senate, hopefully. Is there a possibility that some of these bills could be negated or anything?
So the only way that we can undo the damage of this administration is to defund them. You're not going to get a bill passed out of the Senate and get the president to sign it that would undo, for example, this absurd so-called Inflation Reduction Act, right? That hires 85,000 IRS agents, put a tax on American energy and oil and gas, throws on a whole bunch of
Stops
regulations,
everything, yeah.
spends a lot of money we don't have. You're not going to get them to sign a bill to undo that, I don't believe, unless you play hardball. And the way to play hardball, remember that the founders, James Madison in particular, wrote in Federalist 58, and he said that the reason that, I'm going to paraphrase, that the House of Representatives was given the power of the purse is because it's the closest to the people.
Right.
And it gives us the check against the president.
Right.
Frankly, it gives us a check against the Senate too. It allows us, because all spending bills originate with the House. So therefore, it is our job to check the president by saying, you don't get the money to execute this unless you do the following, right? That's our responsibility and our power. If Republicans aren't willing to do that, nothing will change. That's the straight up, honest truth. If Republicans aren't willing to use the power of the purse, nothing will change. And that's the message we need to deliver to all Republicans.
Currently, there's, and has been for quite a while, just a small number of Republicans that fit in your category that are willing to stand up to fight. Do you see that number expanding with some of the elections that are going on across the nation this particular midterm?
Yeah, we are hopeful that we will have a good, solid block of conservatives to advance an agenda in the House that we support. Look, we're losing some good ones, right? Louis Gohmert is no longer going to be in the House. Jody Hice in Georgia. I could go down the list, 4, 5, 6 that we're losing that are really solid conservatives. We've got some good candidates out there. I believe we'll have a strong block of conservatives. And look, it'll depend a little bit on how big the majority is. But, Lord willing, we take the majority back, and Lord willing, we've got a strong block of conservatives, then we need to exercise our power as conservatives to demand change. Now, that means, starting with leadership races right out of the gate, starting with the rules packages in the House. We should fundamentally change the way the House works and get busy fighting for the people. It does us no good to get into office and immediately start trying to compromise for the sake of retaining power or getting power. If we're given the majority, we need to act on it, and we need to go demonstrate to the American people that we'll fight for them.
Are you seeing from your constituents a shift to potentially a greater boldness in wanting to fight for our constitutional rights with everything that's been going on?
Sure. I mean, I hear from constituents on a daily, regular basis. My staff hears from constituents regularly. And not just constituents, people across the country. I can't tell you how often I get somebody who pulls me aside on the airplane or somewhere around the country, just says, God bless, thank you for fighting for me. I heard a story yesterday, someone right here in Kerrville who allegedly moved here from California to Kerrville, allegedly as a result of watching me on television talking about conservative values and then wanting to look into, I want to live somewhere where someone's talking like that. Now, that's not about me, it's about what we're doing collectively as Texans. We live in the best part of the best state in the best country in the history of the world.
Yeah.
That's just the simple truth. So it doesn't get any better than this. So we better lead and we better demonstrate what freedom looks like. And look, the constituents in Central Texas, they want to live free. But there's a lot of negative influences in Austin and San Antonio that we're having to deal with. And we got to get busy going on offense, preserving and protecting Texas. One last point on that. Our people like to joke about all these people moving in and out of Texas, coming into Texas from places like California and New York. Look, most of the people I meet from those places are seeking refuge, and they're kind of with us. We got a lot of work to do with our kids. Our kids who are getting corrupted by an education system that is teaching them that America and Texas are evil, teaching them to apologize for their race and who they are, to run away from their faith. We need to stop that, and we need to reclaim control over the education of our kids. I can promise you, I'm focused like a laser on getting Republicans elected between now and November 8th. On November 9th, I'm going to be a little bit of a burr in the saddle to some of these folks in the state ledge that Texas needs to stand up and fight. I'm going to go up to D.C. and fight hard, but I need help with a strong Texas. The stronger Texas is, the stronger our argument in Washington is.
And I think I don't live in your congressional district. I'm 11.
There's plenty of time to move.
And it would be a great move. Believe me, I've had so many people say I need to move here, or up where Louis Gohmert's from, up in Tyler. And anyway, I'm on the road so much, but I think one of the things that people are beginning to see is when we have a Chip Roy and we have a Louis Gohmert that are out there being the strong voices, I think for the first time I'm seeing more people talking about, I've got to support that one over in that congressional district. And I think we need to see more of that because we need to find good ones in our own. I'm
a big believer in, to paraphrase or to take a page out of the book from the movie Field of Dreams. I'm a big believer in the if you build it, they will come philosophy. Look, the American people, let's go back to our founding, right? Famous quote from Sam Adams, right? Cousin of John Adams, who said that you don't need a majority. You need a tireless minority being willing to set brush fires of freedom. I believe that. I subscribe to that theory. I'm not interested in going out and saying, well, what am I going to need to do with 218? Or what do I need to do in the Senate with 50 or 60 for the filibuster? I'm a believer that if you got 10 or 15 or 20 of us who are willing to stand up on the rooftop or on the hilltop and say, you know what? I want to live free. I want to stop spending money that we don't have. I want to restore common sense. I want to acknowledge that there is man and woman. I want a secure border. I want a military that is strong, powerful, sparingly used. When it is used forcefully. Give care to our veterans when they come home. Amen. And I want to preserve and protect this great country and our constitutional principles and our rights for my kids and grandkids. I don't want much more than that. I want the government to stay out of our life and let us come live. Like all these people who are seeking to come to the United States, the vast majority of the people pouring across our borders are good people just trying to get a better life. And I don't blame them for that. I blame our leadership for allowing the harms that are befalling many of them, for allowing them to be beholden to cartels. I blame our leadership on what's happening to Mexico becoming a narco-terror state, Central America and South America becoming a tool of the Chinese. This is a bad overall policy for our country. We should take this country back. That's why I produced a document called Stand Up for America, in which I articulate what I think we ought to be doing to try to put a little pressure on my Republican colleagues that we need to stand up and fight for the people that sent us to D.C. to fight for them.
Where can that be found?
They can find it at my political website at chiproy.com. Okay. They can find it on my official website at roy.house.gov. They can find it on my social media. Twitter, for example, is Chip Roy, CHIPROYTX. I can't remember all the other things, Facebook and all those things, but they can find it out there on any of our places.
You were talking about taking back our country. We have China buying up our country like crazy. Is there something from the federal level that could be done to stop that type of invasion?
Yeah, no, that's a big issue. I'm glad you asked it. There's so many issues we could talk about, so you can pick or choose. But I introduced legislation to ban anybody affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party of China from owning land in the United States. We could probably go further. I mean, I'd be happy to look into, maybe we should ban non-American citizens from owning land in the United States. I'm not sure why we want to allow non-Americans to be buying up land here. So
other countries you can't.
Right. I mean, I certainly believe look, we've got the Chinese communists buying land up near our military bases. You've got them buying up farmland, agricultural resources. Not just that, but the meatpacking plants. We need a wholesale review of who can own, operations in dirt in the United States. But even beyond that, even American companies that are great big financial institutions like BlackRock buying up local houses, buying up stocks and inventories of homes, or buying up small farms. I got a little pause on that. I mean, I want Texans to be able to own. I'm a big fan of small businesses, entrepreneurs, local communities, people owning and having a stake in the community, not massive financial institutions buying up Texas land and then kind of commoditizing your neighbor's house. I'm not interested in that. So I think we need to take a wholesale look at some of that stuff. And let's just be clear. I'm a believer in free markets and free enterprise. I am not a believer in corporatism. Big corporate America, big healthcare, big tech, big pharma, big hospital, big insurance. A lot of these big corporate entities are doing as much damage to us as our big government.
That's the way with mom and pop businesses left and right.
And I think we are much stronger when we have mom and pop businesses and small and medium-sized businesses. Like I'm fine with people buying up and selling and moving and doing what's best for them. But I don't want big corporate overlords coming in and telling me how to live my life, and that's what's happening.
This invasion where we have all these millions, an unknown amount of people that have come into our country. What are we going to do to how do I put it? Get them. I get, obviously we're not going to be able to go load them all up and take them back where they came from. They're now going to be here. That seems to be our track record, always our precedents.
So I'm a big believer when it comes to the issue involving the border, that we must demand a border security plan and enforcement of it. If you do any kind of amnesty or status before you do that, then you open the floodgates even more.
Right.
So we have to secure the border. We've got to shut down the flow. We've got to reestablish sovereignty. When you do that, then you have a conversation about future flow and status. And we can have that conversation. I'm not a believer in amnesty. I oppose it. I believe it becomes a magnet. I believe it undermines the rule of law. I believe it's unfair to the people waiting in line to do it the right way.
And the ones who came the right way.
But I'm in favor of having a conversation about what a good immigration system looks like. Let's just be honest. Milton Friedman, the famous economist in the 1970s, Reagan worked a lot with Mr. Friedman, said, I think fairly presciently, he'd be all for open borders if you didn't have a social welfare state. Now that was pre 9/11. We have some security issues and other stuff, but we're a nation that has heavily been come one, come all, but come pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get her done. If people want to move to this country and try to make it like a lot of immigrants do, God bless them. I think the best freedom lovers in this country are Eastern Europeans who have fled communism. They get it. They understand freedom better than half of, or probably more of our kids who graduate from high school right here in America.
Totally.
And so for me, look, I am pro having like freedom loving immigrants who want the best way of life coming to the United States, but they should do it by the book. And we need to come up with a system to make that work. But we need to dismantle the welfare state, the social welfare state, or you've completely upended the reason people come here.
Yeah, because right now it seems to be a better deal to actually come across the border illegally so that you can get transported wherever you need to go in the country and then get free health care, all this stuff.
There's a lot of people waiting in lines right now to
Yeah.
do it the right way while people are flooding across the river and doing it the wrong way and then getting to be able to stay here.
Yeah.
We cannot reward that. We're going to have to deal with the difficult situation, right? If there's a baby on your doorstep, you don't toss the baby aside. You deal with it. You figure out what to do. We've got to be very smart about, like, especially as Christians, as people of faith in this great state. These are human beings. Like, man, I've met with thousands of them at the Rio Grande and talked to them. There are people who are evildoers, who are attached to terrorist organizations, who are moving narcotics, who are coyotes, mules, moving people in here, and they should all be punished, tossed out on their head. There are people here who are coming seeking a better way of life, and they violated the rules and they came here, but then certain of our government entities said you can come and you can't. And if I look at the eyes of a little 7-year-old girl like I did at the border who came here with her mother's number written on her arm, who had been by herself through Mexico, I want to be sensitive to that little girl being a human being and a child of God, but I want to enforce the rule of law. So we can do that because we're a smart, humane people, but it starts by God with securing the border of a sovereign nation.
That is so true. We have so many issues, and they're going to continue. What do you foresee after the election happening with like gas prices and things along that line? Because that's...
Yeah, well, look, the current administration has completely upended our energy policies, driving up the price of gasoline, driving up the price of electricity, destabilizing our grid, undermining our national security. But he dumped the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in order to drive down the price of gasoline heading into the election. It was a purely political move that undermined our national security interests.
Yep.
Now we're going to have to all deal with that. We need to figure out what we need to do to sort of replenish and hold the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. We're going to have to deal with the consequences of that in January, February, March. What will happen to gas prices going forward, I'm not sure. But I know this, if you continue to regulate everything out of existence, if you don't have new power coming online that isn't wind and solar, if you don't have more refining capacity in the United States, and if you're shutting down the production and creation of the internal combustion engine, then you are going to drive up the cost of all travel, transportation, and vehicles in the United States. You're going to make it very difficult for hardworking Americans to do their best because you're not letting the market work. And we can change that. We can change it immediately. Just fix those regulations. You're not going to dent CO2. If that's what's driving you, and there's some debates about that, you're not going to dent it when China has 1,100 coal-fired plants.
Yeah.
They do. And they're building one new one a week. We have 250 coal-fired plants, and we're building 0. We have very few gas
refineries.
gas power plants being put in line, and hardly any nuclear. All we've got are wind and solar. Even in Texas, 80% of the grid this next year that's being added to the grid, the capacity is wind and solar. It's crazy. And by the way, our Texas legislature and leadership in this state should stop that. That's another conversation. But bottom line is, we need everybody to get out there and get this done. We need Republicans to get elected on November 8th. On November 9th, we wake up and we hold Republicans, including me, accountable to fight for the people. But we're not going to save this country if we don't stop spending money we don't have to fund bureaucrats to undo our freedom. That's the end of the story, and we've got to fight that.
So true. Congressman, thank you for your time. I know you've got to get to the meet and greet.
Yeah.
I want to be respectful of your time. God bless you. Continue doing the awesome work you're doing. You make us all proud.
Well, God
Thank
bless you. Thank you very much.